Hey guys, hope you're having an amazing day today. My name is Steve. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to food in America compared to the UK. Why is it so different? This is a topic that I've been wanting to explore for quite some time now. I've been on this journey for long enough to know that for the most part, it seems that the food quality in the UK seems to be so much better than what we can expect here in the US. It's really unfortunate that if you want to eat clean in the US, it seems like it's so much harder to do than it is in other countries, specifically in Europe. And in this case, we're going to be looking specifically at the UK.
Did you know that if you were to buy certain food ingredients at a grocery store in the United Kingdom, in Europe, and in America, same brand, same type chip, a packaged good, you could buy the exact same brand of food and the ingredient labels will be completely different.
Never seen it, but I've heard
this is one of the main reasons why the United States is so sick. What I'm about to show you of what we allow into our products compared to what is happening in other parts of the world is shocking. And it's kind of shameful for the government regulation or lack thereof that goes into this and the foods you're about to see of what is making us so sick in America, leading the way in chronic disease. So this is one of the things that really opened my eyes to how food companies, especially in America, are just exploiting us. I've spent years investigating this and the difference between European and American food and the products and what I found that I'm about to show you, it disgusted me. So back in 2012, I went to the London Olympics. I got the privilege to be an Olympic team doctor and support the athletes leading up to it for the wrestling team and weightlifting team, and got to be at the Olympic house and see many of them win medals. And it's a fantastic experience. And Nurse Living Good, my wife, got to go with me, and we raised money for these athletes and helped support them. It's amazing how little support some of the athletes don't get. But while I was over there, I got to experience European food. And I noticed there was a big difference on some simple foods in a convenience store, in a grocery store.
Right off the bat, I just want to say this. I know for a fact that you are less likely to have all sorts of pesticide concoctions sprayed on your grapes, for example, if they're grown in the UK. I'm not sure how much pesticides you guys use in the UK, but I just know it's going to be less. I know you're not going to be able to allowed to use as much toxic stuff on your foods. And so right off the bat, I know that the produce is just going to be so much healthier for you because you don't have this chemical concoction of who knows what going into your bloodstream every time you pick up a grape or an apple. It's absolutely ridiculous what we have to do here. So you have to buy organic just to make sure that you aren't eating tons of it. Even though organic does use certain pesticides, that is true. Organic's not perfect, but you're more likely to be able to eat a little bit healthier when you eat organic in the US. Hopefully you can actually get local stuff and the farmer, then you can be sure you're actually eating quality stuff here. But yeah.
In a convenience store, in a grocery store, compared to the ones back in America. So right now we're going to break down some of the pictures, comparing them from a before or after. Now, this resource I came across with Food Babe, who does a fantastic job of putting them side by side, but it's the exact same thing that I saw and confirmed when I was over there at the Olympics, looking at these companies like Kraft Heinz, Kellogg's, Pepsi Company, Quaker. They sell safer, better products overseas.
Disgusting.
While making inferior versions right here in America, feeding it to Americans.
I've heard.
The evidence that you're about to see runs the gamut from fast food places to boxed cake mixes to cereals to candies, even oatmeal. You can't escape it. So this is what set me down this path of calling out big food industries, calling out big pharma industries, but leading you guys to make food simple. And I've never looked back of trying to figure out what's causing us to be so sick instead of waiting for people to get sick or exploiting sick people like big pharma and big food has done.
Right. Because here in the US, I really like, we do have bigger sizes and stuff like that, right? On our drinks and stuff at fast food restaurants. The packaging in general is larger from what I understand. I've seen that on certain videos I've reacted to, especially like the fast food comparisons. But it really does seem like it's harder to lose weight here because your body is absorbing so many more chemicals from the food and whatnot that your body then protects itself with extra weight, whether that's water weight or whether that's fat, to protect yourself from the onslaught of chemicals you're getting every single day in your food, in your water from the tap. I don't drink tap water, but a lot of people do. And, then you're showering in that tap water, and that all that chemical concoction goes into your bloodstream. It's just, you can't avoid it, really. It's really hard to avoid this stuff, man. It's really hard.
Check these out. Here are 6 products that are completely different overseas than they are in America. Let's start with the big one, McDonald's French fries. They make their iconic French fries in the UK with a few simple ingredients: potatoes, oil, dextrose, salt. But in the US...
I love it. Non-hydrogenated vegetable oil. Non-hydrogenated vegetable oil. What is hydrogenated oil? What is it? Trans fat. Trans fat. What do we got right here? Hydrogenated soybean oil. Trans fat, man. You guys don't have trans fat in your fries. We have trans fat in this other... Yeah, anyway. Not going to...
Yes, completely different label.
Yeah.
They're made with natural beef flavor. They're made with sodium. They're made with pyrophosphate. And they are fried in oil laced with anti-foaming agents. That's the main ingredient in silly putty.
Silly
Why
putty.
is it ending up in our food? They've somehow figured out to cook their fries without all these extra ingredients overseas, but why not here?
Why? Exactly.
Begs the question. Second one to look at, Quaker Oats. These instant oat packets. Did you know Quaker Oats strawberries and cream has 0 strawberries? In the U.S., Quaker mimics the look and the taste of real strawberries, and what they use is flavored and colored fruit pieces. They're comprised of dehydrated apples, and then they use artificial strawberry flavoring, citric acid, and artificial dye, red number 40, which would cause concentration issues.
Yes.
It's total crazy.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to say. Red 40, that's one thing that I do know of that is horrible. Like, we've actually seen this, with our daughter. Whenever like someone, like a family member or something, has given her some sort of candy or something, and it turns out we look at the ingredients and it's got red 40 in it because it's literally in every single thing that's red colored in the US, pretty much all the candy and stuff. It's amazing the difference in what happens. You can see the difference in her mood, and it's just like, kids can't help it. They can't express what's going on in their brains, but red 40 is horrible for them. We're to the point we don't allow that if we can help it. Sometimes she goes to her grandma's or something, and it's hard to convince grandparents sometimes not to feed, not to get this type of stuff. But it's really, really bad. The red 40 is one of the worst food additives you can give to a child, especially, but anybody. But look at this, guys. Why? Again, why? Like this, there's nothing wrong with it. There's literally nothing wrong with it. Strawberry pieces, raspberry pieces, some oats, a little bit of sugar. Okay. Then, like,
it's total craziness. It's not even a strawberry.
No,
Meanwhile,
that's crazy.
In the UK, Quaker doesn't even attempt to sell that garbage.
Good for y'all, man.
It doesn't make any products like that. The closest counterpart that they have is a product called Oat So Simple that has real strawberries in it, and it's light years ahead of the popular US version that's made with all those toxic artificial dyes and artificial colorings. Number 3 is Mountain Dew. Now, none of these foods are healthy. I don't advise eating them, and some of you can save the comment of like, well, I just shouldn't eat them anyway. But I'm just comparing. How are they approved overseas?
Right, I know what you're saying.
Here, we're allowed to put all this garbage in there. I mean, you pick up a bottle of Mountain Dew in the UK, and you'll find that it gets its bright yellow color simply from beta carotene. It's a natural color derived from carrots and other plants.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Pepsi, who makes Mountain Dew, sells a very different version of Mountain Dew in America.
I was going to say Yellow 5. I knew that already. I knew that. I've looked into so much of this type of stuff, but it's amazing to see what you don't have in the UK offering. I mean, look at this. Now, I agree with him. I mean, we all eat this stuff sometimes, this type of stuff. Some of us more than others. But it's not about the fact of you shouldn't or should eat this stuff. It's about the fact that the U.S. somehow, some reason, the same companies just throw all this toxic garbage at us when other countries don't have to deal with this. And it's disgusting that we have to put up with this nonsense. Look at this, though. Yellow 5. Vegetable oil. Why in the world is there vegetable oil in Mountain Dew? Here you got like carbonated water, sugar, citric acid, ascorbic acid, caffeine, flavorings. I don't know what flavorings are, but probably not maybe as natural flavor. Potassium sorbate, color, beta carotene. I mean, all right. I wonder what the difference in taste is. This is probably much better in the UK, honestly, but it would be interesting to see what the difference is. I need to test this some point.
America. Here in the States, instead of using natural colors to give it that bright popping look, Mountain Dew is artificially colored with a petroleum-based dye called Yellow Number 5.
Oh.
Major problems with reproductive issues and allergens with that. Now, artificial dyes are common in America, but that doesn't make them okay to eat.
Right.
They've been linked to several health issues, like I just explained, as well as they're known carcinogens, some of them. They're certainly not as safe as beta carotene, but Mountain Dew, that story gets worse. The US version of Mountain Dew also contains brominated vegetable oil, BVO. And that ingredient is banned in Europe.
Banned?
Way back in 2014, Pepsi said, okay, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to remove BVO from all the American drinks following a real successful petition that was
banned.
But they still have not removed it from Mountain Dew. Nearly, this many years later. They continue to sell the BVO-free version in other countries, and they allow us to stay sick and toxic. Number 4, Heinz ketchup. The kind you're going to find in almost every restaurant.
What's different with this?
Heinz ketchup is GMO-free in the United Kingdom.
But
full of genetically modified organisms and high fructose.
You don't have GMOs in the UK, right?
Along with lab-produced natural flavorings, which not all of them are bad, but from a company like this, they're bad. And it helps create an addiction to the product. Think of that the next time you're dipping your fries and you can't stop.
Your McDonald's fries at that.
Now, Heinz is attempting to make a simply Heinz version ketchup in the United States with natural flavorings and cleaner ingredients. Why don't they just make the same one that they use over in the UK?
What an idea, right?
There's no need for all the heavy processing, but they want to get you more addicted to it, so you'll buy more of it. It's a problem. Number 5, Doritos. Now, both versions of Doritos are horrible, but the American Doritos are covered in artificial dyes. They're all made from petroleum, the red number 40, the blue number 1, the yellow number 5, super toxic. The dyes have been found to be contaminated with carcinogens, such as benzidine. Benzenes can create some really ugly blood cancers if overconsumed. In the UK, these dyes require a warning label that they may have adverse effects on the activity and attention in children, let alone other side effects. So no company wants to put that on their product because people won't buy it, so they just don't use the artificial dyes. Instead, they simply use things like paprika extract and annatto in order to get the flavoring. The Doritos in the UK are also non-genetically modified, while the American versions are made up of GMO corn, contaminated with glyphosate, that herbicide, weed killer.
Of course.
And then
why would it be, right?
Chemicals.
What else?
Finally, number 6, Frosted Flakes. The jingle, the tiger, the mighty, mighty tiger. I mean, I ate them as a kid. I get it. There's no nutritional value going on here. But at first glance, the Frosted Flakes in the United States and the UK, they look nearly identical. But there's one.
So I remember, that reminded me, I can't remember what it was, but wasn't there a different name for Frosted Flakes? Or maybe there used to be a different name for Frosted Flakes in the UK. I watched an advert or something on one of the advert compilations about that. I can't even remember what that was. I thought it was so interesting, though. It was Frosted Flakes because I remember it had the tiger and stuff, but it was like Was it a different name or a different jingle? Oh, I can't remember.
One big difference. There's a preservative in
Frosties.
the U.S.
Frosties. That's what it is. Okay. I want to see this. BHT. Yeah, this doesn't look too much too different. You got the BHT for freshness. Milk corn maize. That's interesting. Malt flavor versus malt flavorine. That's probably the same thing. There's some barley in the UK version.
Version called BHT.
BHT. Yeah.
Now, this is important because there's a lot of controversial research linking BHT to cancer. And it's
in a
believed
lot
to
of stuff.
also be an endocrine disruptor, which means it's going to mess with your hormones, men and women. And it's not even permitted in cereals in Europe. So Kellogg's reformulated their cereals so that they can legally sell them overseas. And then following a petition to get the BHT out of it, Kellogg's removed it from several brands like Rice Krispies, but it still uses it several years later in the Frosted Flakes still, despite selling it BHT free in other parts of the world. It makes no sense.
No.
Why don't these companies just sell the same safer products everywhere? I'll tell you why. Europe takes a precautionary principle approach towards food additives that are potentially risky. They ban or they add warning labels to these additives for their people. The US takes the opposite approach. It doesn't remove the additives from our food supply until they have been proven to be dangerous. And that
beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Take years and a lot of red tape to get approved. So it literally means you're the lab rat.
Yep.
Americans are the lab rat.
We are.
And the US government
I've learned
allows food companies to largely police itself, deciding which ingredients they're going to use, which chemicals they're going to use, which additives they're going to use, which ones are safe to add to their own products. That clearly isn't a wise approach, is it? Because if a company can get away with a cheaper ingredient, they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. Given a choice, they're always going to opt for the cheaper flavor enhancer, the cheaper color additive.
Why wouldn't they, right? They're trying to make money.
Cheaper genetically modified organism
they're
ingredient.
Not worried about the health of the people.
Even if these cheaper alternatives have negative health impacts, they're going to choose that route for the sake of profit over people.
Absolutely.
Truth is that no one's watching out for us. No one's going to take better care of you and your family's health than you.
All right, guys. This was really, really eye-opening. You know, I seen enough of those comparisons with fast food and stuff to understand that the food quality in the UK was much better than here in the US. But this really helped put into perspective some other just more normal items, or like grocery store items, that people eat on a regular basis, I mean, oatmeal, instant oatmeal, for example, or, some of the other ones here, Doritos. How many people buy Doritos every day in the U.S.? Tons. I see them in grocery carts all the time, right? I mean, I ate Doritos here or there, but it's like, some people would say, well, just don't eat this stuff, right? And that is true. Like, most of this stuff should be stuff you don't eat that often, especially in the US, because it's horrible for you. But at the end of the day, people are going to eat this stuff. And it's a shame that because food companies just care about profit at all costs. I understand you need to make profit as a company, but you care about profit no matter what, no matter how it's going to affect the people in your country. You know what I mean? Like, you can make the same product, a healthier version in Europe, in the UK, but you're like, well, I can get away with it in the US, so I'm just going to not do that. I'm going to poison these people slowly but surely because we can make a few more dollars. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't understand why in 2023 we still have this issue. I mean, I feel like enough people have spoken up about it. I know I definitely don't eat as good as I should. I know how to eat healthy, but it's hard, food addictions and whatnot. And I think there is something to what he's saying here. I think that the food in the U.S. does have a more addictive component than a lot of foods you might find in the UK. The same product, because of the concoction of chemicals and the way they manufacture the foods here. I think it leads to more food addictions. And food addiction, guys, is one of those things that unless you have a food addiction or unless you know people with a food addiction, a lot of people don't understand that food addiction is just as hard to break as pretty much any other addiction, a drug addiction. Food, if you have food addiction, it can be harder to break than an addiction to drugs, to cocaine, for example. It can be harder to break than than so many other addictions because, number one, you are wired to eat. You have to eat every day, so it's an addiction that you're required to take part in this activity that you have this addiction in, which makes it's so much harder to break. And I just think that is one of the most shameful parts of all of this, that it leads to a lot of Americans having food addictions, which they struggle to break. And it's just unfortunate. And that leads to a lot of health consequences here in the U.S. that we don't see as much of in other countries such as the U.K. Not that the U.K. doesn't have its own health issues. They do. I think a lot of Western nations do at this point, but, for the most part, the UK and other European nations, I think, still have a long way to go to catch up with the health consequences that America's been dealing with for quite some time now. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully America can turn this around too and somehow, get control of our food and quit allowing big food to control everything the way they do. But anyways, guys, I thought this was really interesting. I love this type of topic. So if you have anything like this you'd like to share with me, please feel free to do so. I like exploring all these different differences between the US and the UK. So feel free to drop any recommendations you have in the comments, guys. But thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys.